Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your producer and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about strengthening your immunity through your Booger biome. We have back Joyce Dales. Joyce has been on the show 3 times before this, and I'm going to give you the episode numbers and the titles of those episodes because as I edited this show, I realized that I didn't ask her the basic questions about her products and how they work because we've already talked about it at length like 3 times. So if you're new to this, I'm going to tell you to pause today's show and maybe go back and listen to one of these first, or finish this show and then go back. Before I get into the different shows, I do want to remind you that if you're listening to this in real time, today is the day before we start our next level astrology class live. And I have to announce it because it's only going to be live one time. You only have one opportunity to work with Stephanie Shea, the chief astrologer at Jan Spiller, and me about the next level astrology and anything you want to bring in. I mean, we're going to be doing live Q&A. There's not going to be any questions that are off limits. We can talk about anything astrology for you, but it's the only time it's live. Once this is over and you're listening to this in replay and it's well past the date, the course will be available for you to do at any point in time, basically as a home study course. But there is only one time that we do it live. And even if you need a payment plan, email me, jj@jjflazanes.com. I do have a link for a 3-pay plan that you can do instead. But the link to take this course or to buy the first and the second course at a discount is jjflazanes.com/next level. And that link will be in the show notes. So back to Joyce and Joyce's shows. The first episode, and I'm going to give you numbers on spirit, purpose, and energy. So it's episode 150, How Love of Family Created Success in Business. And that was episode 150 on spirit, purpose, and energy. That was the first one, and that's her story. That's her entire story of how she even created a product, why, what it took to create the product, what the product does, how she figured that out, what apitherapy is. The whole shebang. All right. Then the next episode was 162, and I will write these in the show notes. I won't be able to provide links, but I'll be able to give you the numbers. Episode 162, The Healing Power of Honey. I mean, Joyce is she's such a wealth of information when it comes to everything honey and apitherapy related. So The Healing Power of Honey was awesome, and she's got a ton of biohacks. And then the most recent show was episode 196, The Power of Propolis. So again, 150, 162, and 196 on spirit, purpose, and energy. And then today, strengthening immunity through your Booger biome. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Welcome to the podcast. If you are listening to this on the podcast, just know we do have a video. You can come to jjflazanes.tv to meet Joyce. This is her 4th time on the show, and it's our first video. And if you're finding this on YouTube, and you're looking for the information that we have here, know that we also have a podcast. You can click below and take us with you if you don't want some talking heads for an hour. But either way is fine. Also know that I am a producer and an empowerment strategist. Therefore, I will talk on my show. I will not just be a host. I will ask questions, but we're going to have a conversation today, Joyce and I, about her products, about what's going on in the world, about allergies, about what has happened in the last 2 years and what you can do about it to be healthier, stay healthier, and increase your immunity naturally with something really simple and cool if you don't know about it already. So welcome back to the show, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. So Joyce Dales, as you heard, for those of you on the podcast in the bio, created a product and is the owner of Buzzagogo. Her company made a product called Cold Be Gone. And she's been on the show again 3 times. We talked about her whole journey and her whole story about how she came up with the product and what she had to go through and why. And that story is amazing. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I will link you to the first 3 shows that Joyce did. I did bring her back again to talk about honey, to talk about propolis. We did all things honey on 2 other episodes. And so now we're on the 4th episode with Joyce and a new product that she has called Allergy Be Gone. Now she has 4. She went from, I think, 1 product to 4 from the last time I spoke to her. And while we're going to kind of jump around to the different products and the reason why I want you to know about her products, I do want to start with allergies because Allergy Be Gone, I was waiting for you to come out with this. Like when we talked about it, you were in process of doing that. And I was really excited about it. And I haven't really talked about allergies too much on this show. You have the product to show us?
Yes, I do. I have Allergy Be Gone for kids, and then Allergy Be Gone for adults is slightly larger, and I couldn't reach it. I put it too far away from me. So that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
There it is.
What's the difference between the kids and the adult versions?
Literally nothing. It's an FDA requirement for external packaging.
Oh my God. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry. We had a pre-conversation before recording today about a show I'm watching called Dope Sick. Many of you probably have seen it. If you haven't, definitely please watch it and you will know why I laughed at that FDA regulation and more about that later. So now how I present all information always is usually to give you sort of the well-rounded idea of my position, if you will, and the information I want you to know about. And the first thing I want to ask you, Joyce, because since you and I met, I believe it was like pre-pandemic that we did our first show. And then there's been the pandemic, and your product, Cold Be Gone, was definitely one of the things that I used throughout most of this pandemic. I'm going to say most of it because recently I haven't really done anything. I'd say for the first year, I was in Italy when it all started. Actually, I was told not to go to Milan, but we went anyway because I don't believe that you can make anybody else sick. But anyway, so we went to Milan. I kept my immunity high. I did my chlorella. I did my probiotics. I did my Cold Be Gone. We did it religiously. We did our colloidal silver. I had my whole immunity, super pack with me before we went, while we were there, and during our travel, and when we came back. And then since then, I've really kind of dumbed it down to a handful of products that I recommended that people use to, again, keep their immunity high, keep their system clean, keep themselves protected. And for those of you that are new to the show or new to Joyce and you haven't heard those episodes, I do want to talk a little bit about what her product is. Dr. Bruce Lipton and I talked about on our show, God, it's been so long. He and I talked about about your tonsils and the role of your tonsils, and the fact that a lot of this, most of our infections and viral infections and things that are in the air come through our nose. And so we talk a lot about on the show, and Dr. Davis has been on, and he'll be on again with Super Gut. We talk about the microbiome of our gut, which definitely is at least 70% of our immunity, but no one talks about the microbiome of the nose, but Joyce does. So Joyce, can you give everybody who they haven't heard the last 3 episodes, can we do a short synopsis about that? And, and you don't have to tell the whole story, but kind of why you did it and the short version.
The shortest version is we adopted a beautiful baby girl from Vietnam, and she needed emergency open heart surgery. And when she came home, her heart was backwards due to Agent Orange. And when she came home, we were told she was going to be immunocompromised, and everyday colds and flu were going to be a threat to her. And so I felt the way we've all felt in the last 2 years, that just every cough and sniffle I heard on the street was like, and I didn't like that feeling. So I wanted to learn everything I could about how you get sick, how to not get sick. And I went down the rabbit hole. I was already into apitherapy, but I went down the rabbit hole about the nasal biome. So for 10 years, I've been talking about the Booger biome, the nasal biome, and how it's the first line of defense to your entire immune system. And people would look at me like I have 2 heads, but they don't anymore, because the entire world's gotten a crash course in the nasal biome is the first line of defense for your entire immune system. And it's critical. And every other product, even products that are rushing to market now to try and piggyback on my nasal biome messaging, they're doing it wrong. It's full of alcohol, sodium benzoate, chemicals, things that completely disrupt the biodiversity of your nose. So it's literally the key, I think, to fighting illness, because pathogens stay latched on for 1 to 14 days, and we could actually impact that colonization process. So that's what my product's all about.
And basically, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Manuka honey with homeopathy in it.
Yeah, it's a blend of super honeys. It's different super honeys from around the world. I put Manuka honey on the packaging because people know about Manuka honey now, and they also know about the corruption in the a lot of people know about the corruption in the Manuka honey world. So I try to put that as part of my marketing for people that are in the know about quality Manuka honey, and to show that I'm aware of that, and I make it a focal point of my marketing. But there's other super honeys in there blended with homeopathic. So I like to call it a medicated super honey.
A homeopathically medicated super honey.
Precisely. Yep.
Which to me is very important, because again, we're not talking about a chemical in a lab. We're talking about literally homeopathic remedies, which are super safe, don't have any, they're not going to stimulate any negative reactions. They're either going to work or not work. And so at this point, there's no risk. Homeopathy is super safe in every situation, and you're not going to have adverse reactions to homeopathy. Again, it's going to work or it's not going to work.
Right.
So the nasal biome. So basically you swab on some of the honey, and I have I have a whole box of Allergy Be Gone over there, but not in the packaging. And
No,
you swab on some honey and you put it up your nose, and you do this when
that's it.
often. And I guess the question I have for you, see, I was doing it obviously multiple times while traveling. I was doing it multiple times a day if I felt at the beginning of the pandemic, because I thought, all right, this is the best way to protect myself. And that's what I was doing. Now I use it when I didn't use it on the last plane ride. I don't feel unsafe. I'm
Mhm.
over this now. This whole idea of like that there's possible, I'm over it. So, but there are people but if I was to feel, I use my intuition. And when my intuition says, okay, you really need to protect yourself. And it could
Mhm.
be even forget pandemic. It could be just because, there are people who have a version of the flu, it's really more from if JJ's tired and overworked and I'm I'm more susceptible and vulnerable to catching something because I've overworked myself. It's never because I'm not always healthy. It's because I've created the dis-ease, if you will, in my body and left myself open because I've either eaten too much sugar, I haven't gotten enough sleep, I haven't been taking my vitamin C, I haven't had enough water, I'm dehydrated, and whatever. So, so with the cold gun though, I read that you could, let's say someone is already sick, they have a cold, or maybe they have will that help speed up recovery?
Yes, absolutely. I think it really impacts the colonization load, and I think it helps minimize your symptoms. Those are the reports we get from all of our users for Amazon through the website, testimonials that I get. I get a variety of feedback. I get the everybody else got sick but me. I get the I had a cold for one day that was amazing, or I get the I still had my cold, but it was really mild, or I could breathe through my nose the whole time. So I think it depends on when that user struck with their cold be gone. It also depends on that user's own immune system, their energy, where they're at, their health status on that given moment in time. All of that impacts how it will work for you. But the one thing that is a sure thing is that it'll help somehow. It will not hurt.
Right. Yeah. There's going to be no negative reaction, and be careful. Don't put too much of it on that, because then you're going to be dripping honey.
No,
And
no.
multiple applications are important too, especially if, let's say, you're someone who, like, I'm pretty sensitive to dairy and I try to avoid it. But when I do have it, I get congested, which means I can't blow through my nose, or I can't breathe through my nose. So I end up blowing
Mhm.
my nose. So if I've put
Yeah.
Colbigon in, then I have to reapply because I've been blowing my nose. But I know that I have also told people, I've given it as gifts. I've included, you've sent samples and to my events. And so lots of people have it. And I definitely give it to people when there's something going on, or I say, hey, don't forget to take your cold be gone. If they're feeling nervous, or they want to do that extra level of protection. And it's not even extra level of protection. It's just a smart thing to do. It's like putting on your jacket before you go outside in the winter. It's the healthy preventative way to be. And when you and I spoke and you only had that product and you had just gotten into CVS,
Yeah.
you weren't even launched yet. You made the deal and you just got into CVS. This was like several years ago. And now, and this is why I'd love to hear a couple more of the stories, possibly, of the people who've been using Cold Pecan, stories that really stuck out to you. Like, wow, that's great. I'm glad, we know that this works because you're using it, but it's really, and I know, what I do works because I'm using it, but it's really awesome when someone else who you don't know
Yeah.
uses what you use and go, oh my, it changed my life. So
Yeah. Well, I have two that stick out. One, the Boston Red Sox. I don't know if I ever told you that
yes,
story.
yes.
Okay. But then the other one was there was a young man, and I won't say his name because he actually has a social media following, and he's impaired. He has a breathing disorder, and he lives up Maine. And I'm a good Maine girl, so I follow his blog because I love him. And I sent some to him, and his mom wrote back, sent me an email and said, "This has changed our winter. We have not been back in the hospital with pneumonia once." And so I
Mm,
have to wonder, that meant a lot to me. I was like, okay, here's a kid who has a chronic condition that will affect his life and the duration of his life, and he spends at least 3 months of the year in and out of hospitals. And I impacted that. Cold Be Gone made a difference for him. And maybe, I don't have a study to prove that. I just know that all the products that I'm using independently are studied. And I know that putting them together was the smartest move to help him fight all the illness and all the crud all winter long. And it made a difference in his year. That's, those weeks not in the hospital, maybe because he was cold begoning every night. And that was special to me because I know that feeling as a mom. My daughter had open heart surgery, and thankfully she's healthy as a horse and junior Olympian swimmer, and she's amazing. But I know that fear in that first couple of years of her life, like every time you see your baby go into the doctor's office in the hospital, it's just awful. It's horrible. It's horrible.
I think it's a product that everybody should have, in your medicine cabinet and on you. In fact, I have two in my travel bag, one in my purse, one in my car, right? Like one in the bathroom, so that it's always around, because to me, I'm out of sight, out of mind. So I have to remember to do it, since it's not something I do every day, all day long. You know what I mean? I was doing it all of 2020 pretty much. And we would do it before we went out to exercise. We would do it when we weren't allowed to go outside. So we went anyway, and we, use our cold begun. And again, that's why I kept it in my car. Because if I was out at the beach, and we've moved, so now we're not at the beach anymore, but being windy and possibly being susceptible, and of course all the fear. So I love cold begun, and I want to talk about allergy begun now because I have it, and I've always wanted to do like a little study with it. So I know that you made it, or correct me if I'm wrong, you've made it to combat seasonal allergies. Is that correct?
That's right. I think of Allergy Begone as more of an anti-inflammatory because it's the same base formula as Cold Begone with antihistamine homeopathics enhancing it. But for me, Allergy Begone is more about decreasing the inflammation, that non-productive dairy inflammation that we all get in this house every time we have dairy, where you just can't breathe through your nose at all. And it's a non-productive inflammation. And so it helps really reduce that. And then in bringing the healthy diversity back into the nasal biome, again, helps your nose function properly. Increasing the pH value or correcting the pH value if it's off, increasing the moisture level, all of those things are critical to help fight allergens. And every time we change locations, because we change locations twice a year. As a matter of fact, when I sent you all that Allergy Begone, I was rushing to do it out of an airstream because we had run out and we were sold out. So I had to recall some from Amazon, and legally you have to unbox it. That's why you got all that Allergy Begone the way that you did. So Jeffrey and I were stuffing it in boxes to get it to you as quick as we could. But so Allergy Begone is all about helping with the non-productive inflammation of allergies, which is the biggest misery of allergies.
Okay, I had no idea it was food allergies also.
Oh yeah, well, if you inflame in your nose, if your nose becomes totally stopped up and you can't even blow your nose because of dairy, which is what happens to my oldest daughter, this is an anti-inflammatory. It's a vasoconstrictor. So it helps take that out.
Okay, so now there's going to be an Allergy Begone in my kitchen as of today, and I'm going to test this out because I did have a little gluten-free pizza last night with some, I always have like light cheese. Although yesterday I ordered Doug's with no cheese, and we put some dairy-free cheese on his, but I was like, I'll just do light. That's fine. But I didn't use the Allergy Begone. Okay, you've given me a whole nother reason to try this. I can't wait to try this. Now, I am looking to do this study, like my own, like one-person study. So let me just talk about when it comes to colds and flus and sicknesses and disease. I want to, because most of my audience does know that I'm doing a lot of emotional work with people, and especially working with cancer patients and looking at that, because I believe that is a huge factor for whether or not our bodies go into that sickness or get into the frequency of where that's possible to have your body break down. And I wanted to use Allergy Begone with a friend of mine. She's actually like my pseudo daughter, and she has an allergy. She has an allergy to cats. A lot of people have allergy to cats, which, by the way, I had to buy this book, Allergies and Aversions, which is the psychological meaning for allergies. And I was looking at that, which, by the way, for cats, it's mother issues. So I just want to read this really quickly. Right, because I want to just read this thing about allergies, because I want to straddle this from two different perspectives. One, even though I believe that most disease, if not all disease, has a root in emotions, it doesn't mean you don't treat it physically, right? There's taking it from both sides. What happens in our culture, especially Western medicine or thinking, is that we have something wrong and we treat it only one way. It's why in Dr. Nasha Winter's book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer, emotions and that stuff is at the end, because it's like the hardest thing, because nobody wants to do it. Even Dr. Northrup in our last conversation said, oh yeah, actually we said it after I stopped recording. I told her what I was doing, I think. And she said, yeah, that's the thing nobody wants to do because it's the hardest, but it absolutely is the root of most things. But it's about combining. It's about doing both of those things. So for those of you that have allergies, while I want you all to get Allergy Be Gone, especially now with food, definitely there's another reason to have to have it besides if you don't have seasonal allergies or any other kind of allergies, but you definitely know that you're slightly sensitive to certain foods or chemicals or dyes or anything, getting Allergy Be Gone. That's a great, I can't even believe I didn't even know that, Joyce. I'm so excited to literally test this out today.
I'm excited to tell you about it because if you think about allergies, it's an inflammation. It's inflammation, but it doesn't matter. I don't know how to put it in a way that the way I think of it is, even if it's a dairy allergy, you're inflaming everywhere. You know what I mean? It's happening everywhere. So it's not just about dealing with postnasal drip and those physical manifestations of the allergy. It's about restoring the healthy balance of this zone. And this is just as connected to your gut and your immune system as everything else. So you've got to do it from the rooter to the tutor. You got to hit the whole thing. And then the emotional aspect of it is at least you feel you're being proactive. While you have to deal with the emotional aspects of illness, which for me are very real. I could literally worry myself into an illness in half an hour. I could just do it like that.
My mother just did it. She upper limited big time. And it was really challenging for me because I watched it happen. I know exactly what happened. And she went, oh my gosh, don't even get me started. She's like, I'm going to go get a thermometer because maybe I have COVID. I'm like, you don't have COVID. And then she, got herself sick. Oh, I don't feel good. I don't want to get anybody sick. I'm like, you're not sick. I know exactly what she did. She focused on it. She worried herself into symptoms of sickness. And doesn't mean the symptoms aren't real. Just means it was created in your brain. It was created in your fear. And you absolutely can do that. But since we're kind of talking a little bit about allergies, I want to quickly just read this little thing for people to keep in mind that while again, physical stuff, and especially natural, 100% risk-free natural stuff like Allergy Be Gone and Cold Be Gone is something you need to have on hand. There's no negative side effects. Nothing bad is going to happen, right?
It killed me at the beginning of the pandemic. It was, and of course, we're very restricted on what we can say because I am an FDA compliant OTC pharmaceutical and I follow the rules. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I wanted to run screaming from the rooftops and just tell everybody, it's all about the nose. It's all about the nose. And I was months ahead of them really telling the population, it's all about the nose. I wanted to, if I could have put a free bottle in every single person's hand, I would have done it. It kills me.
Well, there's doing that. And then there's whether they'll use it or not. And that's the difference because the information is out there. It's that people aren't listening because they're just too fear-based to think that something so simple, like the fact that masks don't work. Right. Like stuff like that, right? People, but cause let me talk, do you know how airflow works? Anyway, people they don't want to know is the point. And so even if you gave everybody a free bottle, the likelihood they would have used it. I mean, you understand what's going on. We talk about how to build someone's immunity. No one's talking about that. None of this has been about health. So, but I am, and people know that, and you're here, those of you who are listening, because you know that I'm about keeping you proactive and keeping you preventative and keeping you not just reactionary, but being ahead of the game and understanding and having choice. And
you know what's interesting about what you said earlier is that I wanted to say this as a mom, the proof in the pudding. If you ever wanted proof that that emotions affect whether or not you're sick, if one of these baby girls, they're not babies, they're 12 and 14, but whatever. One of these baby girls has something wrong with her and goes to bed with a sniffle, a headache, an earache. I think I have swimmer's ear or whatever. I can go to them and empower them verbally and say, oh, honey, just, tell it to get out. Tell it to get out. And here, mommy, I'm going to put a little cream on your ear. It could literally be coconut oil. And that child will heal herself by morning most of the time.
Right.
All I have to do is
placebo effect.
Right. All mommy has to do is put the mommy magic into it. And it's,
it's like kissing the boo-boo.
Right.
Kissing the boo-boo when they
but
go,
we don't know how to kiss our own.
Right.
Yeah. But how do you kiss your own boo-boo when you're a grown-up and your brain's getting in the way,
When you have to understand and learn quantum physics and epigenetics, when you understand those two sciences, you'll understand the power you have over how you create your reality. And it's really that simple. Again, way too simple for most people to actually care about. But let me put another thought in your head. Those of you that have allergies, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully if Julie can get her butt up here, because I have cats. And so she's, there's the whole I've told her, can we do an experiment? I want to use the Allergy Be Gone, and I want to tap out some of the emotional root issues, like in present time while she's having like a reaction. I want to be able to retrain her brain to react differently through tapping. So, but I have to find the root and find the emotion to be able to do that. But anyway, allergies represent on the edge functioning due to rather severe emotional difficulties arising from early non-acceptance, lack of nurturing, rejection, neglect, and or traumatic initial emotional development, primarily in the individual's relationship with their mother. So that's all I'm going to read. There's a whole bunch of things. And because I had to buy this book when my ex-husband's friends, some of them were severely allergic to cats. And the way that they would act around it was like, it was the cat's fault. I'm like, it's not the cat's fault. Like, I need to find out what your issue is, because it's not the cat's fault that you're allergic to them. So anyway, as I digress, I just want to put out there that yes, that if you have severe allergies and you're in this state, while I want you to get relief physically, and Allergy Be Gone sounds like the number one thing everybody needs to have. And now, especially because of food allergies. But then if you want to take it the next step, there are some emotional things to do around it. So now back to Cold Be Gone, and same thing for colds. If you're having a cold or a headache or a migraine, there's an emotional root to that too. And again, if you're not ready to deal with that, just acknowledge that that's going to be there. And in the meantime, use your Cold Be Gone. Use it twice a day. Use it however you need to. And what else I want to ask you, or what else do you want to talk about in terms of these products and their use, or have you had any other, like feedback about, because Allergy Be Gone's newer. Mm-hmm. What about the testimonials for Allergy Be Gone?
Kids' Allergy Be Gone has been flying off the shelves. It has far outpaced adult Allergy Be Gone. I think moms view it as, I've gotten a lot of feedback from moms whose kids have challenges, like some friends with nonverbal kids. Strangers have written to me with nonverbal teenagers and adults, that it's an easy way to treat those children because it's a quick swab. Boom, boom. They have trouble with administering swallowing medicines or communicating what you need the child to do. And so I've heard from a lot of people in that community who have children that have various challenges, that it's been really, really useful, a great option for them, because syrups, and while all those things may be, elderberry syrup, all those things are really wonderful, getting the child to comply with administration of those things can be difficult, but a swab is super fast. You can get it done like in under 3 seconds before anybody knows you're coming at them with a swab. So that's been what I had never really thought about that before, about adults with disabilities or challenges, and what an easy dosing situation this is. So that was news to me since Allergy Be Gone came out, that it was reaching that community. And I've had some Congress people using my Cold Be Gone and Allergy Be Gone. I get orders from DC, and then I can't talk about who ordered it. But my brain, the way I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, really? I guess maybe you should stop trying to overregulate homeopathics, because you certainly use them.
Yeah. Again, Dope Sick. Everybody go watch Dope Sick on Hulu. Maybe I'll talk about it later when it's all over, but Dope Sick on Hulu. Now, what you started this company and you're doing great, and it's been amazing, and it's so useful and helpful. And I really appreciate your products, and more people need to know about them. Mm-hmm. What's next for you in terms of your, whether it be products or like, what's next for you? What do you see? Cause we all, you would ask me before we started recording, like, how you doing? How's it been for you? And I'm sitting in the space of, constantly expanding. And what that means is that there are parts of it that are really exhilarating and fun. And there are parts of it are sad, and you have to let go of things or people or situations or ideas, or put something down. And so it's a upward motion, which has some collateral damage sometimes. I mean, not in big ways, but you get inspired and you move to the next thing. And sometimes you have to move to the next thing and replace it or let go of other things. So what's inspiring you now? What's happening, and where are you going?
Well, I'll tell you, the pandemic was a shock. For one thing, nobody was going into stores, and we had just gotten our CVS placement just about 3 years ago. So 1 year into CVS placement, we've expanded with the pediatrics in the middle of the pandemic, and boom, no one's going into the stores. And then we're competing with Amazon and the large retailers that are delivering to everyone's home. So that was the kick in the pants, right? So we had to figure out how to pivot. And luckily, the universe delivered to me a team of amazing people who wanted to come on board with the company in exchange for equity. And they're marketers, they're helping us with production, they're helping us with advertising, creativity up the wazoo. And that helped transition us from relying too heavily on people physically walking into stores to building up our e-commerce, and our Amazon sales have gone through the roof. People are sitting at home and thinking about, how do I stay well? And when they look up, germs colonize in the nose, we're the one product that pops up. And so we're reaching people on a whole new level online. So that's been fantastic. And then having this team build out around me of people who finally understand my message. I mean, here I've been talking, like I said, I've been talking about it for 10 years, and now it resonates with everybody. It's like the world has reached my vibration, where Cold Be Gone and Allergy Be Gone makes sense to people. They understand the messaging. I don't have to overcome the hurdles of why this makes sense. And it's changed. It's been a game changer this year. So in the last 3 months alone, I can't even begin to tell you how much we've grown. We're about to have meetings with some of the biggest retailers in the country as people are starting to go into brick and mortar stores. There's a lot of focus on, because of the changing of the social dynamics in the last year, a lot of focus on women-owned, minority-owned businesses. So that's opening doors for me. So all I can hope is that, sometime in the next year to 2 years, everybody in the country has heard of Cold Be Gone and Allergy Be Gone and is willing to keep it in their medicine cabinet, because I think it could be a game changer for our collective wellness. Imagine the energy of that if we're all focused on wellness instead of sickness.
Right. Yeah. Well, you and I are part of healthcare. Everyone else is part of sick care. And we want to stay ahead of that preventative. Like if you know something's coming, you know what aging does, you know what eating too much sugar does, you know whatever, XYZ, you see it. You can just look around. If you know it's coming, then do something about it now. So that way you're not there. You have a choice. We always have a choice. And I'm a big fan of prevention. Of course, that's a lot of what I talk about. And I get frustrated when I see people who are shocked every time, every new year, new people go through menopause. And I'm like, you knew this was coming. This is not a secret, right? Yep. Or flu season happens, which I heard a doctor say on an Instagram. Actually, I don't even know where the video was, but I know it got taken down. It was that we don't actually have a flu season. We have a lack of vitamin D season in places. And that was and all the research to support that was there. And, again, vitamin D even still, people don't know they should be taking vitamin D in large doses of it. They think 30 is good. I'm like, no, 30 is not good. But
maybe it's not so much prevention as is empowerment. I love that it's like, it's not prevention. It's just empowering people. I have a card right here. There it is on a green card on my window. I have cards. I'm old school. I have them everywhere. And it says, where I come from, we are empowered. And that's how I feel about all of this. It's not so much about a prevention or preventative. It's just being empowered that you don't have to do this. You are in charge of what's going on with your body. And yes, stuff's going to, there's going to be variables, but how you react to them and how you work within that is what makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's been a long time since we talked. I've started a certification. It's empowerment strategist certification. So I'm helping people become trainers to do what I do on the emotional side. And some of that's going to include, I did a section in this first group with sort of health and wellness things, but I had to be kind of general about it. It had to be like, the basics, because that is an area where a lot of people, especially with doctors, I'll never forget when I went to and it is, yes, my fibroid story again, but the end of it, which was when I asked the gynecologist for different, and I think I asked the person who did the procedure, the doctor, I was looking for another alternative. And when she said, well, here's what could happen. Here's the bad thing that could happen. Again, 5 to 15% chance. And I was like, and I, as a problem solver, came up with like 5 or 6 different things. I was really proud of myself, and she shot them all down. But I was like, why do you only have one solution? There is more than one way to do this. And it was appalling, but it is very telling. And of course, you walk into, that's what they have. They have this or that. They have a pill or surgery. They're going to cut you open. So that's the tool that they have. And me, I'm like, my toolbox is overflowing with stuff because all the tools aren't right for everybody. And you would like to know what they are so that you can pick the ones that feel the best for you and you can try them. And like, even just with cancer, I not joked, but I was frustrated with the fibroid thing because I said, what's really frustrating is that this is a benign tumors. And because the doctor said, oh, well, at least it's not cancer. And I said, you know what? I have tools for cancer. Like I have a ton of tools for cancer. As I'm not asking for cancer, but know that if I had a cancer diagnosis, I got a ton of tools that I would use. Fibroids, you have like three options. I'm like, why is that? Why? Because it's not life-threatening. So, and everyone just says, okay, sure, take out my uterus. No, but that's what people do. So anyway, I like just with you, empower people to, especially in the health and wellness field and industry, as well as emotional and relationship, all of it is you need to have the options, what's out there. And most people just don't know what's out there. And I hope that a lot of you have heard Joyce already on the show. Again, we did some great 2 episodes all around honey and propolis. I mean, we went deep on the honey conversation in those 2 shows. And then, this one. So this has been this growth and movement to bring us to the power that you have in your kitchen, like on your kitchen cabinet.
That's right.
Right. I remember you telling a story about your Maine Coon cat. What's his name?
Groot.
Right.
Groot.
And how he would slice you and then you would put on the Manuka honey and then it would go away. And the vet said to you, what did you do? And then didn't say anything because she knew, because you healed and you didn't need any other medication or shots or anything like that because you basically were, which I love him, by the way. Is he doing okay?
He's great. He's mellowed with age. Thank God. He hasn't bitten anybody in ages because he has a seizure disorder. And so he's been on CBD for a long time. It really is making a difference. So nobody's been wounded lately.
Well, I remember that story. And again, if those of you haven't heard Joyce's other 3 episodes, definitely check the show notes for those episode numbers. So you can start at the beginning and listen to her whole story about building her business and her company and how that went. And of course, a little bit about why. And then getting to, and how her husband participated, all that. It's just a great, really feel good story. And then we went deeper on honey and how honey can heal you and then propolis. And, it's a lot of great information. And you're probably one of my favorite people who do a lot of health hacks. And Thanks. So you have a lot of information. In fact, you should probably have your own podcast about that. And you can just sell Cold Begone on it, but tell people about the health hacks because you have so many. You're a wealth of knowledge of that. And I think that people would benefit from more of that. But side note, anyway. So anything else you would like to tell everybody, Joyce, on because you're educated, you're eloquent, you're passionate, you're purpose driven, you're empowered driven, and you're on this path. And I think people, especially moms, your whole story is every mom with any child who's had any issues needs to be following you because of the things that and do and tried. And you have 2 healthy girls that I think were both immunocompromised, right? At some point, maybe.
Yeah. Well, any international adoptee is going to come home immunocompromised because the malnourishment and the change of environment. So absolutely. Yes. When you were talking earlier about your fibroids, which your story was so intense, I remember all of that is, they haven't studied what to do about fibroids because it's about women. It's about women. This whole thing, my whole company is about, don't tell a mom that I need to live in a bubble with my child and my only solution's antibiotics or isolation. Don't tell a woman that because women are going to solve all these problems. Nothing against men. I love my men. I love my people who ride the line, the LGBTQ community. I love everybody, but I don't ever want to take away from what women can accomplish and what my grandmother taught me and how empowering that was,
Well, thank you for being an example of that. And I told you, I'm still going to take you up on that offer as soon as I figure out what the damn product is I'm going to make. It's coming. It's inevitable. It's going to be a food something. It's inevitable. I'm such a foodie. I'm such a cook. I'm such in the kitchen. And I don't know what that's going to be. It went from like a coffee substitute, which now I'm not going to be doing because of what it was. And anyway, I don't know. I'm just waiting for the inspiration, but at some point there will be a product in my future because I know it. I've always felt it. I haven't identified what that is yet. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your message. I appreciate your products. And yes, this is one big gosh darn commercial because I want you all to have Cold Begone and Allergy Begone because it's cheap and inexpensive and it's life-changing and will keep you healthy. And I think everybody needs to have that as an option. And I am looking forward to, and if I have Julie and we do this little test of the tapping and the Allergy Begone, and if it works, I'm going to do a whole show on that. Maybe I'll ask a couple other people to participate and I can try it and rinse and repeat with a couple people. But I'm so thankful that I asked that question today because I'm now good for those of you with food allergies. That is another reason to use Allergy Be Gone.
Absolutely. It's just another tool in your toolbox. Like you said, it's another tool in the toolbox.
Yep. Social media is Cold Be Gone?
Yeah, Cold Be Gone or Buzzagogo, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm more active on TikTok because the algorithms have not begun to censor us yet. It'll happen, but you can come follow me on TikTok. And I love to, anybody has a question about anything, please give me a holler. I love to talk about this stuff endlessly. I think biohackers and women, we're what's next. So let's chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joyce.
Thank you.